A Witch's Tale. The Rising. Chapter 1. It felt like no time. The only sound she could hear, she'd heard for as long as she could allow herself to remember. It was up to a certain point in time that she would allow it. The memories, the visions, and above all, the future. That was what she clung to for dear life. The past, well, it could wait. It could wait for her as she continued to bathe in those pure waters that somehow still sparkled with bloodstains of a forgotten era. "It's time," said a voice. Ah, it was Magnus, short for magnanimous. A friend from the Stone Kingdom, from inner earth, from where she had delved for as long as she could remember. They say it's happening. Darkness is giving. Ariel J. opened her eyes, which were the color of gold, still the same color of the past. That hadn't changed. She was still the same girl in the making, a witch of the past, one forgotten in the rocks of ages. She seemed troubled. "Do you not see, Magnus, my dear friend, that darkness doesn't give, it takes, just as it took my life so long ago?" Magnus was silent. He was a rock spirit, and conscious enough to take up many forms. This time he appeared as a purpley pink humanoid form with golden eyes as hers. "Memories are surfacing," Ariel J. revealed with an even greater troublesome look. She rubbed her temples as though battling a non-existent headache. It had been a while since she'd had a physical body per se. It was hard even to remember what that had been like. Painful, that was what she remembered the most, and cringed at simply daring to glimpse more into it. "I shall not, Magnus. I shall not return. I'm one of you now. I've told you. I repeat, I'm not going back." "That's not the Ariel J. I know. The girl I know sees there's hope for the future." "Barely," Ariel J. interjected grumpily, crossing her arms and turning her back on him. "Let me be, Magnus. If you're really going to be this annoying, I suggest we go our own ways." Magnus couldn't help but smile. He looked from right to left, wondering where he could ever go, but to the deep center of the earth. That's where he'd been previously. That was where he'd received the message from the core of the planet that a change of consciousness was about to occur. "They need you," he said, then turned to leave. Her hair was long and the color of copper, which she quickly began to plait absent-mindedly as she sat on a rock that dripped with the sounds of a waterfall. "He can go," she thought. "After all, look at her now, no more than a spirit in between worlds." Many were stuck there in the forgotten earth of those strong souls that had died and had immortalized themselves in the core, but just like them, she couldn't leave. Outside, the sounds of the waterfall were muffled by the coldness of the harshness of the Icelandic winter. Much lay frozen, and outside she could be as she was, without proper physicality, while still feeling the slight coldness of winter around her. Looking to get away from the bitterness, and for the lack of a better word, the rage that threatened to envelop her from deep inside, she moved outside, where the cold might whisper gentlest stories to her being. She had suddenly the willingness to be frozen all winter, although as much as she tried, the warmth inside never ceased. Ariel J. was that kind of witch, a forever one, in which trauma, recklessness of heart, and resistance all encapsulated the heart of what yet a young girl of no more than 15. That had been the age she'd been drowned for carrying on the witchcraft that had been forever in her bloodline. Her ancestors, they had moved onto reincarnations that despised magic of all sorts. Ariel J had not. Had it been of any use at all, ignoring Magnanimous' message? He was silica, conscious rock formation, which traveled freely in the structures that formed the planet. He spoke in silence, and the echoes of his words were just as annoying as his words themselves. Damn you, Magnus. You of all beings should know when not to disturb a witch in her long slumber. But it was beautiful, the outside, the world. It was early morning. No tourists had yet arrived to hear the same lame tale of how witches were drowned at that place. Some would hear it, and by their expressions, she could tell they were far from understanding. They were happy to gather information, and that was that. Ariel J didn't understand it, the modern world, the one that, according to Magnus, now called her back. The fact was that she could no longer relate to these people. They would stare for long periods at a screen, oblivious to the marvels of nature. Their pictures, which they called photos, were more like a fence of protection from really experiencing what was right before their eyes. Even Ariel J, who did not have a body any longer, could see the black wall of ignorance that had raised steadily upwards since the day she'd been dragged by her long hair out of her home in a humiliating way. Her ancestors had left her one by one for this. This inquiry left her stunned and bitter. But what if Magnanimous was right? What if something was indeed lifting? The sun rose in the horizon, bringing new colors, new codes of light, a wonder that softened through the bitterness. She'd been there for centuries, and it was always a new marvel to behold. It was finally decided she would go herself to the depths of the earth. She wanted to hear for herself of these good tidings. Then, and only then, she would answer or not the calling.